There is a quiet place inside all of us, a space where we carry the things we know we should do, yet somehow never manage to follow. It is a small distance, barely a few steps wide, but it feels like a wide stretch of fog. We see the right path, but we do not move. We understand what would make our lives better, clearer, lighter, but that understanding remains untouched, resting in the mind instead of finding its way into the world. And it leaves us wondering why wisdom can feel so close, yet so far from becoming action. Most people imagine that change is difficult because the steps are complicated. But the truth is far gentler. The difficulty does not live in the steps. It lives in the moment before them, in that uneasy pause where intention waits for momentum. We wake in the morning already knowing the choices that would help us grow. We know which habits give us peace, which conversations need honesty, which patterns slowly harm us, and which dreams keep calling our name. Knowledge has never been the problem. The struggle lies in the space between the idea and the first quiet movement. In that space, the mind becomes louder than the heart. Thoughts rush in with reasons to wait, to delay, to stay still a little longer. Sometimes it is fear, not of failing, but of becoming someone new. Sometimes it is exhaustion, not from effort, but from carrying unmade decisions for too long. Sometimes it is comfort, not because life is fulfilling, but because familiarity feels safer than growth. And so we remain in that silent tug-of-war, knowing the direction, resisting the motion. It is not a dramatic battle. It is soft, almost invisible, like a shadow that follows us through every intention we postpone. If we look more gently at this distance, we discover that it is not laziness or weakness that keeps us from acting. The gap exists because the mind and the body move at different speeds. The mind can leap far ahead. It imagines change in a single breath. It sees the entire mountain at once, the new habits, the new identity, the new peace. But the body moves slowly, like a traveler who must take each step with its own rhythm and weight. This mismatch creates tension. The mind asks for transformation, while the body asks for patience. There is also something deeper. Our actions are shaped not only by what we know, but by what we feel safe enough to become. Knowledge speaks clearly, but emotion whispers cautiously. We act only as fast as our inner safety allows. We hesitate because the familiar version of ourselves still feels sturdier than the unknown one we are trying to become. Even good change requires a kind of grieving, a letting go of old routines, old comforts, old identities. Understanding this softens the distance. It reminds us that the gap is not a flaw. It is a natural part of becoming. A transition the mind can imagine instantly, but the heart must warm up to slowly. There comes a moment, usually quiet and unannounced, when the weight of staying the same becomes heavier than the effort of taking one step forward. It does not arrive like motivation. It arrives like clarity, a gentle realization that we no longer want to sit in the same inner waiting room. This shift is not loud. It feels like the way early morning light touches a room before the sun fully rises, soft, subtle, unmistakable. We begin to see that change is not a river we must throw ourselves into all at once. It is a series of small, almost invisible ripples. A single step that does not transform us completely but moves us closer to the person we quietly hope to be. And here lies the turning point. The moment we stop trying to close the entire distance at once, and instead choose to close only what fits comfortably beneath one foot. When we give ourselves permission to begin small, truly small, the gap between knowing and doing becomes thinner, softer, less intimidating. We realize that movement itself creates clarity. That motion creates understanding, not the other way around. Little by little, the fog lifts not because we conquered it, but because we walked through it. In daily life, this truth unfolds quietly. A person who wants to regain their strength does not need a perfect plan. They only need to place their shoes by the door and walk for 5 minutes. The body remembers the rhythm long before the mind trusts it. Someone who wants to speak more honestly does not need a rehearsed speech. They only need to say the first sincere sentence. There is always a moment when truth becomes easier after it has been spoken once. A person who longs for more peace does not need an hour of stillness. They only need one calm breath taken on purpose. Even a single breath can remind the mind that quiet is possible. And the one who carries a dream, a long, patient dream, does not need to build the entire path at once. They only need to begin shaping the first stone. The rest reveals itself gradually, as if the road appears only under the feet willing to walk it. Every meaningful change begins with a step too small for the world to notice, but large enough for the soul to feel. These are the choices that shrink the distance between knowing and doing. Not dramatic leaps, but gentle, consistent motions that tell the body, the mind, and the heart, we are safe to move now. With time, the small actions gather quietly. They shape new habits, new strength, new patterns. And without realizing it, we discover that the gap we once feared has become a place we gently crossed, step by step, without needing permission or perfect certainty. In the end, the distance between knowing and doing is bridged not by force, but by softness, the kind that allows us to move gently toward the life that has been patiently waiting on the other side. And sometimes, the smallest step becomes the one that finally changes everything.